talk to a man in a language he understands, it goes to his head. If you talk to a man in his language, it goes to his heart. I've always loved this quote for the many things it represents and the many ways I've interpreted it throughout my entire life. To me, the quote means a couple of things. First, it means that all people should have the ability to connect with each other regardless of cultural or linguistic backgrounds. I also like to interpret it to mean that language is a reflection of who somebody is. It can express a story or a background, or it can reflect heritage, or just kind of, it tells you a little bit about a person. However, sometimes the stories these languages tell are best heard in their native tongue. I'm happy to say that all my life I've had the amazing opportunities to host foreign exchange programs and foreign exchange students within my own home. One of my first memorable experiences of this came when I was 8 years old. When I was 8 years old, my family partook in a Russian exchange program. This Russian exchange program took place over a month-long course, and it was during the summer when I was in elementary school. I very vividly remember going to the bus station to pick up the 2 girls that we would be hosting in our house for the month. When they came, we took them to get medically treated and would take them to lots of doctor's appointments, but we would also give them the American experience, taking them to things like shopping malls, beaches, movie theaters, and they loved every second of it. Now, as you can imagine, as an eager 8-year-old, as soon as we picked them up, I instantly berated them with lots of questions, basically throwing all my curiosity at them. Now the girls, Anya and Julia, were about 8 years old as well, and they spoke about as much English as I spoke Russian, which was absolutely none. So I probably looked a little bit like a lunatic, just throwing all my English at them, and it would have been impossible for them to comprehend it, but we slowly got over this dilemma, as the month progressed. We managed to kind of work our way around the problem with, charades and hand gestures. You'd be surprised how far a little bit of that will go. Another great thing slowly started to happen, however. They started to teach us simple words in their language, and we would do the same for them. Simple things like dog, bathroom, food, water, kind of the necessities. But the more of their language we began to understand, and the more of ours they began to understand, the more comfortable they felt with us. I felt like that divide slowly went down as we began to know more of their language, and they opened up to us. They became less shy. They would maybe not feel quite as nervous if they didn't know a word in English. They would just try to communicate a little bit more. This feeling of connection was established when my family started to embrace their culture and language as much as they were doing with ours. This feeling of connection between two people that had never met before or couldn't even speak the same language was something that I thrived on. It's something I became addicted to very quickly, and I wanted to pursue it from that point on. We did the program several more times throughout my elementary school years, and I loved it so much I wanted to continue. So when I was a sophomore in Bow High School, I signed up to be an ambassador for the Spiral Chinese Exchange Program. It's pretty parallel to the Russian program that we did in my family when I was 8 years old, except this time the students were, again, my age, so roughly 14 and 15. However, this time they spoke English. As they came as students, they were kind of immersing themselves in the culture and progressing their studies. And the nice thing about them knowing English is I very quickly realized they were more apt to share their stories with us. They were easier to connect with, I think, a little bit at first. They were definitely not as shy with us as they were able to kind of communicate and not worry about not knowing what to say or not knowing how to say what they want. And I definitely saw a drastic difference from them, the Russian girls, when we would go places in public. They were able to happily communicate with people of my community when we went to beaches, movie theaters. They were able to talk to people, and they weren't quite as shy. So the language barrier has become more prevalent in my life as I've wanted to travel the world myself. I've always been able to host lots of people and lots of different cultural language in my own home, but I've never been on the other side of the spectrum, and that's something I want to do when I get older. So this is where my senior project came in. I've come to believe that just because English is such a prominent language in the rest of the world, we shouldn't take advantage of the luxury we have in easy translation or being able to understand things when we go to another country. When Americans travel to another country, we kind of expect that they speak English or they have some type of translation device, but it's not usually as greatly reciprocated on our end, and I feel like that's something maybe we could try to do better, or that's why I was kind of just interested in learning another language myself. I've taken 5 years of French at this school, and I'm currently a member of French 5. And I've definitely seen the fruits of my efforts. I've really enjoyed the experience so far, and it's just been a really exciting journey as I've kind of seen myself progress in learning a language. However, pretty early on in high school, I decided that learning one language wasn't really enough for me after English. But what language should I choose? There's so many to pick from. If I were to learn another one, where would I even begin? So I thought to pick a language that would be very prominent in the rest of the world, like English, similar to French, so it would be a little bit easier to catch on to. And for me, that language was Spanish. Now, if you look up at the countries on the screen here, the green represents Spanish-speaking countries. And while it may look like it only dominates the southwestern hemisphere, it actually varies a lot more across the world. These countries in the green right here represent countries that speak Spanish only, they claim it as their national language, but it's spoken in many parts of the world other than just these countries. So what I've done for my projects is I've done a fairly comprehensive study of the language and cultural backgrounds of Spain and Spanish culture. When I first began my project, I wanted to finish the Spanish 2-3 level, and pretty quickly I realized that wasn't as feasible as I wanted it to be. That'd be for me cramming 2 or 3 years maybe into only a semester, which wasn't quite as plausible as I wanted it to be. And if I did that, it would have been more of a rush to the project, and I wouldn't have really taken away as much as I did from it. So what I turned it into was I got a Spanish 1 textbook, I got some audio tapes, and I would learn grammar sheets, I'd take a few quizzes, learn a little bit of vocab, and I also established a great community connection. For those of you who don't know, the Youth Center in Bow, it's an after-school program that runs 5 days a week for kids at the elementary school to go to after they go to school, and they can go there for activities and do their homework and things like that. What I did for mine is I went to the Youth Center and I got a group of about 10 or 12 kids, and they would come every single Friday. They're 3rd and 4th graders, and we would do Spanish crafts and projects. As you can see here, we have the God's Eye, or Day of the Dead masks when Halloween came by. We tried to celebrate Halloween holidays the same way they would be celebrated in Spain, and they really like those types of projects, I think. We made empanadas, and we did taco boats on the last day. That was the big boat that they did. They loved it. One of the great successful pieces about this part of my project was I saw my interest passing on to them. I was very passionate about the project and interested in learning other languages, and they also had that same feeling as well. They would come back on Friday and say, oh, I made the empanadas with my mom, or oh, I showed my friend how to make this craft. Now we both made them for our other friends, and that was just a really kind of rewarding piece of my project. So I feel as though I actually knew why I think learning another language or trying to embrace another culture is so important, but I'd like to let the members show you. Economically, learning another language is an extremely beneficial thing for somebody who lives in America. With native-born Americans, less than 10% of them knowing more than one language, you can make yourself an extreme anomaly in any career field you go to being bilingual. According to Forbes magazine, someone who claims to speak 2 or more languages will make $10,000 to $20,000 more on average per year than their colleagues in the field of business. And obviously, over time, you can see that growing to a lot of money. Document translators. Document translators can make up to 19 cents per word translating scientifically based fields. The reason this rate might be so high for science is just because science doesn't always come over the language barrier as easy as other texts would. And the nice thing about document translating is it's something that can, for somebody who is comfortable with the language and very comprehensible of it, it's a job that can take a week or 2 to translate a document, but with a lot of profit. So the revenue over time with a little amount of time and a lot of money is really a great thing. The list goes on for reasons why learning a new language and embracing other culture is a great thing. The world is a great place with so many benefits to be reaped. I believe everybody should try at some point in their life to experience another culture or travel or even try to learn another language. My hope today when you leave isn't that maybe you try to go and learn another language. That's not really a plausible idea for anybody, and it's definitely not something that's easy if you don't have the time to immerse yourself in the language or you're not a very academic person. But maybe before you travel next time, you grab an extra brochure or a place you've seen on a postcard that you know nothing about. Maybe you do a little bit of research. Things like that are really great things to do, and I believe worldly knowledge is extremely important. I hope I pass that idea on to you guys, and thank you for coming to my SAFE project.
Anybody have any questions for Jacob?
What's the next language
I think an Asian language would be fun to learn, but I don't know, that's definitely a little bit harder. The nice thing about French and Spanish is there's a lot of similarities as like, the Romance languages.